Welcome back to the Poorly Educated Podcast Today in the News, the show where we break down global collapse using the same logic my Uncle Randy uses when deciding whether a gas station burrito counts as fiber. Brother, today's news looks like the whole world got drunk, lost the remote, and started freestyle rebuilding civilization like it was a busted lawnmower held together with duct tape and Mountain Dew fumes. We got world leaders fighting like raccoons in a dumpster, AI companies slapping each other with billion-dollar computer chips, Ukraine being told to sign a peace deal faster than a drunk cousin signs a prenup, and a Thanksgiving storm so big it's basically a meteorological eviction notice from Mother Nature. So buckle up, pour yourself a bowl of gravy cereal, and prepare your last 3 brain cells for impact. Segment 1, The MAGA Civil War, Marjorie Taylor Greene versus Trump World. Brother, the drama in MAGA land this week is hotter than my cousin Earl's catalytic converter after a 3 a.m. midnight parts acquisition run. Marjorie Taylor Greene done resigned from Congress like she was quitting a job at Waffle House after the night shift. Except instead of screaming customers, it was a screaming president calling her Marjorie Trader Greene, like he was announcing a new Mortal Kombat character. Now, normally I'd say this is just regular Republican drama, like when 2 raccoons fight over the same trash can. But this time it feels biblical. One day she's the queen of angry Facebook Live rants, and the next Trump is out here demanding her arrest like she stole the golden calf. She tried to release all the Epstein files, and Trump slapped her hand like she touched Grandma's special butter dish. Apparently, transparency is only for other people, not for the team. She hops online talking about how she spent millions of dollars, years of her life, and all her family time getting Trump elected, and Trump's response is basically, "Cool story. Now hand over your badge and your key fob." Brother, that's not politics. That's the world's angriest MLM breakup. And then she hits us with that "I won't be the battered wife anymore" line. Now, I ain't a relationship counselor. I once gave a friend advice that accidentally got him married to a woman who collects mannequins. But even I know when your metaphor involves domestic disputes, you ain't talking about unity. The GOP now looks like a high school lunchroom after the popular kids got into a slap fight. Green's out, the Trump loyalists are sharpening their pitchforks, and Georgia's going to hold a special election where the MAGA base has to decide whether they support Trump or the lady who used to talk about Jewish space lasers like she was describing the weather. This ain't a party. It's the world's angriest tailgate. Segment 2. Trump meets a socialist and loves it, the Mamdani Summit. Brother, I ain't kidding when I say this. Donald Trump met a socialist and liked him. Somewhere in the multiverse, Ronald Reagan just spit out his milk. Trump sat down with New York City's new mayor-elect, Zohran Mamdani, a dude who literally ran on a platform that was basically, what if rent didn't ruin your entire life? And instead of fighting, the two bonded over their shared hatred of utility companies, high rent, and anybody who says zoning reform without ducking first. Trump called him a very rational guy, which is hilarious because 2 weeks ago Trump was calling him a communist lunatic. That's a glow-up so fast it should have its own TikTok filter. And Mamdani called Trump a fascist despot, but I guess when you both hate Con Edison, bygones are bygones. Nothing unites America like extremely overpriced electricity. Now, I don't know what dimension we entered where the MAGA right and the Democratic Socialists form the Avengers. But apparently, this new coalition is held together by rent, rage, and the shared belief that NYC shouldn't cost more than a kidney on the black market. They talked about building more housing, which is crazy, because Republicans normally think housing crisis means someone built a duplex near a golf course. But Trump said he's all in, especially if you bulldoze some zoning boards. And brother, nothing gets Trump excited like bulldozing stuff. This is what political analysts call horseshoe theory, but what I call when your truck breaks down and suddenly your sworn enemy becomes your best friend because he knows how to fix a carburetor. I'll say it. We're in the populist Avengers timeline now. Segment 3. Texas Redistricting, the Great Map War of 2025. Texas is out here redrawing congressional lines like a drunk cousin redrawing the boundary lines of a beer pong table. Brother, they didn't just tweak a map. They performed full-on political bodywork, shifting 5 whole House seats from maybe competitive to Republicans win before breakfast. A 3-judge panel said the map was racial gerrymandering. Texas responded by saying, "Now hold on, we can explain," then immediately sprinted to the Supreme Court like they were late for a Buc-ee's brisket sandwich. And Justice Alito swooped in and issued an emergency stay, which is legal talk for, "I ain't saying y'all are right, but I'm saying the clock's ticking and this is too messy for me to deal with before dinner." If SCOTUS lets this map stand, Republicans basically start 2026 with a 5-seat head start. And let me tell you something, as a man who has watched many a rigged county fair race. If you give one competitor a 5-second head start, you ain't running a race. You're running a reenactment of Mario Kart with cheat codes on. Meanwhile, Paxton says changing the map now would cause voter confusion, which is funny because confusing voters is literally the whole point of gerrymandering. These maps got districts shaped like a rattlesnake that swallowed a trombone. Everything about this feels like Texas is trying to win the Electoral College of redistricting, and they might. Segment 4. The G20 Boycott. America ghosts the entire planet. Brother, America done ghosted the G20 like it was an ex texting you up at 2 a.m. For the first time ever, the United States looked at one of the biggest global meetings on Earth and said, "Nah, we busy. Y'all have fun without us." Instead of sending even a junior intern with a clipboard, the U.S. sent an empty chair, which is symbolic in the same way that my ex leaving her toothbrush at my place was symbolic. It meant nothing good was happening. The official line is that South Africa is mistreating white farmers, which is the foreign policy equivalent of saying you skipped jury duty because Mercury was in retrograde. The South African president personally told Trump that the rumors weren't true, and the U.S. responded, "Cool story, still not coming." So you got every major world power sitting around a giant table trying to solve global economic crises, and the U.S. seat is emptier than the family photo section at a Walmart after Black Friday. China immediately swooped in like a hungry seagull targeting a dropped corn dog. They're now basically hosting the Global South sleepover party while we sit at home yelling at our own thermostat. And over in the corner, Argentina's president, Javier Milei, is boycotting too. Probably because he's trying to impress Trump like a kid wearing his dad's boots. South Africa responded by saying, "Fine, the world can just move on without America," which is the diplomatic version of, "I don't need you anyway, I'm dating someone hotter." And I'll tell you what, nothing says New World Order like America skipping a G20 to stay home and argue with itself. Segment 5. Ukraine's Thanksgiving Ultimatum. Sign or freeze. There is nothing more American than giving someone a deadline on Thanksgiving. Pass the stuffing and also sign away half your country. The Trump administration basically told Ukraine, "You got till Thursday, the food coma deadline, to agree to this peace plan or we're turning off the weapons and Wi-Fi." This 28-point deal is brutal. It basically says, Give Russia Donbass, Crimea, NATO dreams, and half your future. In exchange, you get good vibes and maybe a coupon booklet. Ukraine is sitting there like, this feels like losing? And the US is like, no, this is called peace through giving up everything you want. Zelensky gave a speech that sounded like someone preparing for either a breakup or a hostage negotiation. He said Ukraine must choose between loss of dignity or losing a key partner. Brother, that's the most depressing Thanksgiving choice since someone tried to deep fry a turkey in a garage. Europe is panicking. They're at the G20 saying things like, more work is needed, which is European for, oh crap, oh crap, oh crap. Russia's over there acting like they had nothing to do with any of this. Putin popped out and said, well, we haven't talked about this lately, but this plan could be a basis for peace. That right there is the diplomatic version of the villain tapping his fingers together, going, excellent. The deadline is Thanksgiving. Only in America could world peace hinge on a holiday famous for overeating and family arguments. Segment 6. The AI arms race. Google versus OpenAI versus everyone's sanity. Brother, this week in AI was like watching two nerdy billion-dollar mechs slap fight in a Walmart parking lot. Google dropped Gemini 3.0, and the tech world screamed like someone just found out the McRib came back. This thing has a 1 million token memory, a brain bigger than the Library of Congress, and a mode called Deep Think, which sounds like a redneck metaphor but actually means it can out-reason most humans and my cousin, who once debated a refrigerator for 15 minutes. OpenAI panicked so hard, they basically sent a company-wide "Vibes are rough" memo, which is CEO speak for Google just pantsed us in front of the whole school. Then Sam Altman admitted Google has the distribution moat, which is fancy talk for they own every phone, browser, and toaster oven on Earth, so we're kinda screwed. Meanwhile, Jensen Huang from NVIDIA says the AI boom isn't a bubble. It's the beginning of extraordinary returns, which is exactly what a man would say while sitting on a literal throne made of GPUs. Bill Gates, who has been rich since dinosaurs walked the earth, said the AI frenzy looks like tulip mania. When a man who invested in Clippy says you're being irrational, buddy, you might want to sit down. This arms race ain't slowing down. We've reached the point where computers argue better than Congress. Though to be fair, so do hamsters. Segment 7. America's mood ring, markets, culture, and chaos. The stock market this week swung harder than me on a rope swing after 3 bush lights. The Dow popped a whole percent because some dude at the New York Fed said maybe, possibly, if the wind is right, interest rates could go down. That was enough to make Wall Street start dancing like they just got invited to the cookout. Bitcoin fell off a cliff like it forgot to steer straight, dropping from $88,000 to $80,000 faster than my cousin's sobriety after a court date. Meanwhile, cultural chaos hit like a possum in a ceiling fan. Miss Universe got crowned in Thailand, and Miss Mexico won after telling off an organizer who called her a dumbhead, which is a bold move when you're on live TV. She marched out like she was quitting a job at the DMV and still won the whole thing. Queen. And Wicked. Part 2 made more money than my entire family tree combined, proving Americans desperately want escapism, preferably with witches, singing, and no politicians. But then you have that Christmas tree lighting in North Carolina where gunfire broke out. 4 people shot at a holiday event. Brother, when Christmas becomes a tactical situation, we might want to rethink some things. America right now is running on caffeine, anxiety, and seasonal depression. Segment 8. The Thanksgiving Superstorm. Mother Nature says, "Y'all stay home." This Thanksgiving travel season ain't just a storm. It's a full-blown meteorological middle finger. 82 million Americans hitting the road? Not if Mother Nature has anything to say about it. She's sending an atmospheric river, which is weather nerd talk for giant sky water hose pointed directly at your travel plans. The East Coast is prepping for rain, wind, and snow. Texas is bracing for flooding. The Pacific Northwest is basically turning into one big wet dog. If this storm had a slogan, it'd be, "Thanksgiving is canceled, love Mother Nature." Every major airport from Seattle to Boston is expected to look like a Black Friday sale at an abandoned mall. Chaotic, confusing, and full of people crying. This year, the turkey ain't the only thing getting roasted. In conclusion, brother, America is doing that thing where every part of the country tries to fall apart at once like a lawn chair from Dollar General. MAGA's divorcing itself live on air. Trump and a socialist teamed up like some weird political buddy movie. Texas is redistricting like it's playing Twister with democracy. And the U.S. ghosted the G20 harder than my cousin ghosted child support court dates. Ukraine's Thanksgiving deadline is looming. AI companies are battling like tech Pokemon. Markets are swinging like a drunk on a tire swing. Christmas events are turning into action scenes. Miss Universe turned into a live walkout. Wicked is saving America's serotonin, and a monster superstorm is ready to shut down half the country's travel plans. But here we are, the poorly educated, eating gas station jerky, shouting at the news, and trying to make sense of it all with logic that would barely pass a sobriety test. Join me next time when we once again try to explain the apocalypse using the dialect of a man whose IQ is powered entirely by biscuits and spit.